Hi, this is Eric Smith. Time to do another quick look video, and I thought I would do it from Genesis chapter 41, verse 16, and the Word of God reads this way. So Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace." Now, in chapter 41 of Genesis, we have the account of Pharaoh having a dream. No one can interpret it for him, but he's told that there's someone in prison by the name of Joseph that can interpret dreams. And if you've read the account in Genesis, you know that Joseph was put in prison unfairly and unjustly. He was accused of doing something that he didn't do. He was accused of attacking Potiphar's wife. In fact, Potiphar's wife was basically lusting after Joseph, and Joseph was an upright man and wouldn't do it. He was put in prison unjustly and unfairly because of that. In the midst of being in prison, Joseph interpreted some dreams, and one of the people that got out because of Joseph's dream, is kind of prophesying what would happen, is now telling Pharaoh, guess what? This man can interpret dreams. And the reason I'm keying in on verse 16 is because I want you to see something very interesting that we can kind of gloss over if we don't really pay attention to it. The verse begins, so Joseph answered Pharaoh. So what is Joseph answering from Pharaoh? Well, in the verse before it, verse 15, it reads this way. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it, but I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. So now Joseph is answering Pharaoh's question, his request. And he says, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. So Joseph is answering Pharaoh concerning him being able to interpret a dream. And I want you to catch the two things that Joseph said to Pharaoh. The first part of it is not in me. So what is Joseph saying to Pharaoh? He's telling him, listen, I'm just a spokesperson for God. He had no innate ability to interpret a dream in his own ability. You know what I'm saying? He couldn't do it. And that he would only speak for God. That's basically what he's saying when he says it's not in me. That someone else is going to speak through him. And that he did not want to elevate himself. It is really easy to elevate yourself when someone says, hey, this guy can interpret dreams. He's telling Pharaoh right out, it's not in me. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm nothing special. But then the second part of this verse reads this way. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. So he's telling Pharaoh now it is God that's going to give an answer. And what is he telling Pharaoh, basically? And you'll see that this is played out in the rest of chapter 41. He's telling them that God is in control. God has all the authority. In fact, God is omniscient. God would tell him what would happen, what the dreams meant. God is sovereign. That God is showing what he would do based on the dream. It was actually God's doing. And 3, that God is omnipotent. He has the power to do what he says and he plans. And the whole dream Pharaoh was having has everything to do with God's purposes and plans, and he's bringing it to pass. In fact, part of the dream has something to do with a famine. Well, who brings that? It's God. God is doing it all. So not only is Joseph telling him, I'm just not some interpreter of dreams like, I'm a psychic from the psychic network. No, I'm a spokesperson for God. This is what God is doing. God is going to interpret the dream. I'm going to tell you the interpretation, and this is what's going to happen because it is God doing it for his purposes. Dear Christian, there are people out today that want to call themselves interpreter of dreams. They're prophets and they're saying all these things. And a lot of times it's foolishness. We should never say, hey, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen as a believer in Jesus Christ, like you have some special ability, because now you're setting yourself up as a spokesperson for God. And if you're saying it, then God is the authority and everything you say better come to pass. Because if it doesn't come to pass, you're a lying prophet. And you can read in the Old Testament what they did to lying prophets. But Joseph wasn't a lying prophet. Joseph told Pharaoh, exactly what would happen based on his dream, but more so based on the sovereign purposes and plans of God. Because he wasn't just doing it to make Pharaoh happy. This had everything to do with Joseph later rising to power. And then when Joseph rose to power, how he would end up helping and saving his own family and the nation of Israel. It's all in God's sovereign plan. But it all started with Joseph being let out of prison to interpret a dream that he wouldn't interpret on his own, but that God would do it. And this is important because we have to understand any power that's given to anyone to interpret anything in the scriptures is given by God for God's purposes. So this is Genesis chapter 41, verse 16. I just wanted to do a quick look to remind you, Christian, that when we read the Old Testament and people are prophesying and interpreting dreams, it's not something that we should make a trite happening, so to speak. We have to understand that it's all of God. As always, if the videos on this channel have encouraged your Christian walk and edified you in any way whatsoever, but you have not subscribed to my channel yet and you want to, hit the button. If you want to leave any comments, please do so, but please don't be snarky. Please do not be profane. We want to be Christ-like in everything we say and do as Christians. And until we do another quick look, this is a wonderful account of how God used Joseph and God uses us today. But if we're going to speak for God, let us speak the truth and let everyone know that it's not us that's doing anything. We're God's workmanship. Ephesians 2:10, it's God working in us and through us, not only for his sanctification, but for his purposes. So let's make sure we always give the credit to God. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and God bless.